and in private employment. Democracy means freedom of worship for all and the subordination of the rights of any one race to the overriding right of the human race. Our national flag belongs to all our citizens. Our national coat of arms with our national birds inscribed therein is the sacred trust of all our citizens. So it is today. Please, I urge you, let it always be so. Let us always be able to say with the psalmist, "Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity." As the citizens of an independent country, we must preserve the qualities we have developed in the testing period before independence. We must work even harder than in the past. The watchwords I have chosen for the nation are discipline, production, tolerance. I appeal to you to let them ever be your guide to conduct. If we do this, we will build a nation which can hold its head high and be accepted anywhere in the world, and which any other nation will be glad to welcome as a friend. As we march forward to our great day, let us do so as a united people, bridging all the differences of class, race, color, and creed. Let us make a living reality of our new motto: together we aspire, together we achieve.
Good morning, Mayaro, and welcome to Seine Talk. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, listeners across the planet, today is Saturday, the 22nd of April, 2023. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. First and foremost, I must say a special good morning to the Muslim community on this great and holy day, and of course, Eid Mubarak to you. As we know, the word Islam means love, and that in terms of this great day of celebration, a family time to get together, Eid Mubarak to the Muslim community and to all of us, as we know that God is love and love is God. So good morning to you. Yes, this morning we have a very packed show, and of course we would like to bring to you, our listeners, all the information of all what is happening. We know of our situation, and of course you have been kept abreast of same right here. What is affecting, what are the positives, what are the negatives, and of course solutions. So this morning, we will have a special guest, of course, to touch on some of the concerns being raised by residents across the region and even in the national sphere. Earlier this week, we would have had, oh my gosh, where all the heads of government of CARICOM nations would have assembled in Port of Spain with that whole impact of treating crime and violence as a public health issue. And of course, for those of us who may not grasp, when it is termed and put under that context, it helps to release a number of resources that would not have otherwise been tapped into, because it's a regional approach, and when the concept of public health, it means that more resources from different contexts and different areas can be now put into it, because crime was not here yesterday, and it was not here the day before. It was here long before that, and all we can treat with right now is the now. So before we go into today's dailies, we must also confirm that one of the public utilities subordinates which comes under that ministry have been dealing us on this side of the island, that that end of the stick that we call the S end of the stick. And of course, it is not something that we here on Seine Talk did not take note of. There were some changes, there were some promises, there was some talk, but as it relates to that precious resource, action is the key thing. So this morning, of course, we're going to be touching on that specifically as it relates to this part of the island, and also to give some context in that this part of the island stood independently as it relates to water and water distribution. And a lot of resources were put into connecting us to the national water grid. So now most of the water to this part of the island comes from the Navet Dam. And we are smack in the middle of the dry season. So there's plenty dynamics at play. Remember, we spoke right here about the desal plant and the buildup of allergy and the reduction of output daily. All of those contexts have to be put in place. But the final say is that you are getting a bill for a particular resource coming to you. And the bills, no problems or no hiccups with the bills come on time. However, what you have been asked to pay for is not meeting expectations. And we're going to deal with that this morning. So, we're going to touch on our 3 dailies. But before that, let's just, deal with the hand of mercy and put in context today's show. So,
could repair or fix all the wrong in this world. Mankind still defiant and so selfish, continue choosing wrong over happiness. See it, some playing God so blatantly, crippling the world and its economy, causing grief everywhere on planet Earth. Father God, we need you so desperately, pleading, begging. Father, we pleading for your hands of mercy. We begging, we pleading. Father, we asking for your hands of mercy. All in the palm of their hands, cause every madman wants to have their own say. It's getting out of hand and out of control. The universe has now become a wicked world. The future of man looking dark and deadly. So Father God, we need you so desperately, pleading, yes, we begging. Father, we pleading for your hands of mercy. I say we begging, mankind needs to learn a lesson. But you know best, cause you have all the answers. You is the one we all depending on. So we leaving it all in your precious hands. But Father God, we really need you desperately. Pleading, begging, Father, we pleading for your hands of mercy. I say we begging, we pleading, Jehovah, we asking for your hands of mercy.
Yes, we pleading, we begging, we asking for that hand of mercy. And this morning, the place is overcast, and of course, it looks and appears as if it's overcast. We're going to get some showers. But listeners, if you are tuned in to the nightly news, you would have realized that we have an increase in terms of the Sahara dust, and of course, the impact and effects that comes with that. For those with respiratory ailments and stuff, we know that we need to take that precaution, stay indoors. If you're coming out, it may be a good time to wear that mask, and of course, for all the protection that goes with it. So, we are smack in the middle of dry season, and of course, we know that entity that is not helping that situation. We're going to touch on that and what would have taken place over the past couple days at Union, and of course it is the cry across the region as it relates to that entity called how do they pronounce it? It's WASA. Oh no, sorry, WASA, right? That entity called WASA, the Water and Sewerage Authority, and what has been happening with that. All right, of course that is topic at the head. And the night cricket has started and games have commenced, and of course the impact and effect on that in terms of something good that is happening within the region. So hats off to the All Miaro Sports Foundation, Mr. Lynch and his team, in terms of again coming up with the night wind ball cricket, and of course to the sponsors of that event, BPTT, who continues to give back within the region and the community in terms of sponsoring that event. So we're going to get some scores as it relates to the games and what's happening with that night cricket. We had our girls at the under 20 level in terms of the CONCACAF region, and they didn't fare so well, but all is not lost as they didn't get again, that preparation time whole syndrome was not on as it would like, or as it should be, as it relates in preparation for those tournaments. And cricket is the order of the day, and it's plain to see that when you think that football may be the number one sport in Trinidad and Tobago, that very expensive sport of cricket seems to get greater and greater support across our Twin Island Republic than any other sport. And that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Because as a region, meaning beyond Trinidad and Tobago, the West Indies I'm speaking of, is that we made those in charge of cricket alter the games on many occasions in order to suppress the talent of our region. And of course, we know we dominated at a certain time, and different changes within the rules of the game to taper and, put us down. Recently, we had some of our top world-class spinners, and of course, always being earmarked for suspect bowling action, and of course, that means that you have to stay out or be banned and that kind of thing. Right now, we have the top cricket league in the world, and of course, that is the India Premiership, the IPL, and of course, that excitement, you cannot help but tune in. And of course, they bring the best of the best across the planet to the organizers of that tournament. I mean, hats off. And those of you who could remember when TNT participated And of course, oh my gosh, were we a proud nation as it relates to that. So, hats off to that, and soon coming in our own Caribbean Premier League and cricket upcoming. So, cricket is the order of the day, and cricket is, of course, a spectator sport, and hats off to all the cricket all over. We have the secondary schools cricket, and of course, we have persons from our region, in particular at Presentation College, San Fernando, and of course they are doing quite well. I think Hillview College is the reigning champions, and of course these schools go across TNT, and if you find out the addresses of those players at these schools, you realize that they are from across the island. So it means that the level of competitiveness as it relates to secondary schools cricket is also surpassing secondary school football. So we notice that there are some gaps that we have to lean on, fill in, and of course, that sponsorship situation. So, what do we have going on next door in our Twin Island Republic? This weekend is the Jazz Festival, and of course, one of those guys that who was recently recognized, and who is Tobagonian, and who has given us that timeless classic, right, about some of the things that some people do. And that thing starts with L, and that's one of the things that we don't want. So, to this gem, this national icon, and of course, it's called Liar, Liar by the Nelson. Poetry in motion. This is what the art form is. By Calypso, all stories are told. So you're going to tune into the Tobago Boy and then come back with our first guest this morning to deal with some serious issues. Stay tuned.
See who they will crown as lion champion. Liars from all parts of the West Indies. Big shot liars from all them foreign countries. From a field about 1,000 or so entry. In 2 days, he boiled down and leave just 3. I had me eye on Liar the lion, because I know he does come with some good ones. But they had a younger fella named Debo, come from some village there in Tobago. He say his father is Tobago's best fisherman.
Mayaro Radio.
80 feet in span. He had to tighten the boat and swim back to land to get his brother Eric to give him a hand. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You hear lie?
Teacher Pussy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Why, sir? Check it out. Liar the lion, he laughed till he sweat. He said, Mr. Depot, ain't say nothing yet. If you really want to hear about fishing, let me blow your mind. Now listen to something. When you're talking about fish, you just hit the spot. I was hoping you did believe it or not. The fish your father caught, to you it was great. But it's them small fish my father does use for bait. Lion went ahead on points in the show. Completely eliminated Mr. Depot. The next man to beat was really outrageous. He asked the judges if he could lie first. The judges asked Lion. The lion agreed. Say any topic we'll pick is alright with me. He outrageous, I strong. Let we meet head on. And when we done, see who head fit to wear the crown. You hear lie? That is lie. Lie? You your hair lie.
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Let it go. Let it go. Shook it up. Yep. The outrageous say that he knew a tailor comes to making suit. The man is the master. If you show him a man coming round a corner, he could make him a suit and don't even measure. A talking about suit, sitting down correct, expertly made and fitting perfect. He used to sew for Shakespeare, make suit for Hamlet, and up to this day yet make a mistake yet. You know the crowd went wild, they couldn't cool down. As a liar, the lion losing the crown. The judges brought the crowd back to order and asked the lion to lie about a tailor. He said, my man is the best, Rolf is his name. Cutting cloth, making suit is his game. Don't show him the man, my tailor is class. Just show him the corner where the fella pass, and he gon' make a suit. That is tailor, your hair lie, king liar.
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Whip it up, pick it up, let it go, move it up, let it go.
Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die. Teacher Percy say if you tell a lie, you're going to hell as soon as you die.
Yes, remember, right? I wonder if any one of those persons who participated in that competition is related to the chief secretary. You know, we could check out that. You know, that's serious. After getting contact with the icon Nelson and ask him if that song relates to persons related to the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Augustine. Anyhow, let's move on. Important thing this morning, listeners, as we try to go into our first interview this morning. And of course, here on Seine Talk, you know, we go to the top. We go to where we can get answers, be aware of what is happening, and what's so that we could be in the know, because these situations that are taking place are impacting all of us. So it is of the utmost importance as it relates to same. So it is really, really important.
Hello, morning.
Hi, morning, ladies and gentlemen. We have live on the line with us the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Miaro, in our dear brother, in the person of Mr. Rushton Parrick. Good morning, MP.
Hi, good morning, Wendell. Good morning, Eid Mubarak to all the constituents.
Great. Yes, on this holiest of holy days. MP, there is so much that we could touch, but first and foremost, we want to say thank you for taking our call. We know how busy you are, and even more so currently at this time as what is happening across our region. But we thank you so much, and our listeners, for taking our call this morning to share with us some and take some of our questions. So first and foremost, MP, that dreaded situation from that entity that we call WASA. Now, I knew that in the past you would have had contact, made representation. We were given certain assurances and all these kinds of things. But give us an update, and of course you are aware of what, because I got it off of your page as you was informing the region as what was taking place at Union. So could you share with us this morning that whole situation?
Sure. Well, I mean, Wendell, you as well as everybody else in the constituency knows the chaotic position WASA has had the entire constituency in over the last 5 or 6 years. It has grown progressively worse. Now, at times, WASA seems to be on schedule with their schedule arrangements for water, and then at times it seems it goes totally crazy. Now, most recently, over the last 2 years, in my interactions with WASA, and driving the minister to come up with some long-term fixes to deal with the engineering and physical issues with WASA. And the problem for Mayaro, and when I say Mayaro, again, I need to remind constituents, I use the term Mayaro in the constituency sense. Obviously, Mayaro, the community, is a subset of the wider constituency. So when I refer to Mayaro, I'm referring to Mayaro as the constituency. There is a shortfall in water for the entire constituency by about 5.5 million gallons of water per day. That's the shortage that WASA has. Now, this developed over many, many years as Mayaro has grown. More developments, more housing, more business, more demands on WASA and WASA infrastructure. So that's one challenge. Now, over the last 2 years, based on my parliamentary role, based on negotiations with the Minister of Public Utilities, I got them to look at 3 projects for the Mayaro constituency to fill that 5.5 million gallons of water that is in deficit. One of the projects was supposed to be the Guayaguayari facility, which basically they're taking water from the Maho River and they're doing some conversions, and that ought to have put 2 million gallons of water into the subsystem for the Guayaguayari area. And when I say Guayaguayari, I mean from Russville straight to Stonebright. Now, when that service supposed to come on, that will give that entire area 24/7 water, inclusive of the Isthmus Court Galeota Point area, because there will be sufficient water. Now, in my dealings with the minister and WASA, that facility was supposed to be online since November last year. We are at the end of April in 2023. That facility is still dormant. I have yet to get an update as to what is the key matter. The second project that was supposed to inject an additional 2 million gallons of water into the Mayaro subset. The Mayaro subset would extend from Turnham, Cascadoo, Rest House, Ottawa, back down to Church Road as you come back south, go as far as Bristol, serving both Mafeking, Outer Mafeking, Inner Mafeking, and all the surrounding communities. Now, that was supposed to have a installed desal facility, or a modern day desal facility, that was going to draw water out of the Ottawa River, do some what you call reverse osmosis, clean the water up, and get it into our subsystem. That, I understand, is a work in progress. I understand the land has been acquired in terms of where this facility is going to be. And so works are in motion for that. That is a mid to long term project. And the last project, which they spoke to me about, was running a new 14-inch line from Navet Dam to Tableland. Now, how does that affect us? Currently, there is about 1 million gallons of water that comes on a 14-inch line from Navet to San Pedro. San Pedro booster is what has to boost the water and service Rio Claro, Libotville, Lazari, Pool, Tabaquite, all the surrounding areas in Rio Claro. However, because it's one line, that one line has to be shared between Tableland and the Rio Claro. So what you find happening is they have to rotate that service. The idea is if they build a new 14-inch line to Tableland, Rio Claro will now have 24/7 access of 1 million gallons of water per day in the Rio Claro environments and subsets. So that should relieve them. I think they said they were looking at 24/5, where you get 5 days, 24 hours a day water service. Now, all these plans are good. I understand Claire's MP. These are the mid to long-term solutions. My argument with WASA has always been, and up to yesterday was Parliament, I spent the greater part of the morning with the senior managers, the minister, the CEO, the chairman of the board at WASA, that while the grass is growing, the horse
Horses
cannot
starve.
starve. So we came up with an idea yesterday. Now it is just a concept that I gave to them. It is up to WASA to decide how they can execute it. And I told them, in the meantime, we need to provide water to our constituents. There are times when the schedule, people tanks will be filled. There are days when, because of poor infrastructure, leakages, that some communities, the schedule is missed. I tell them, let's take for instance, Union. Union has about 120 homes. You cannot expect that if these people miss their schedule, or WASA miss their schedule, and they're going into 24 to 25 to 30 days without water, you can't expect all 120 homeowners to call St. Joseph and ask for a truck of water. I said WASA has to be on the ball. If you know that Union did not get water in its last 9-day rotation, send trucks to the community. Not one, not two, send 5, 10 trucks, and pass around to all 120 homes and give them some water. Do not wait for the people to call. So I made that very clear in the meeting, that going forward, it is WASA's responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the MP or the councillors to inform WASA. This is your service. You must be aware of your schedule, when the communities get water, and who has been missed. And when that is missed, you have a duty to send trucks into the community and provide people with water until the next 9 days or 10-day schedule. I have also advised them to reach out to the chairman of the regional corporation and the council, which is you guys, and go into a partnership with them. WASA must partner with our local government body to bring a quick resolution, because you guys, the council, knows the community intimately. People faster reach out to me and you, Wendell, as councillor, than call St. Joseph for water. So a partnership between WASA and the regional corporation. Let's bring the help desk, take it out of St. Joseph, bring it to Rio Claro, right? Let's create our own help desk here, so our burgesses, our constituents, can call a hotline number right here in Rio Claro, engage if it's 10 or 12 water trucking companies in the region. So no truck coming from Pinal and St. Joseph and Tobago. All of the resources will be in the constituency here. So when you make a call to our local help desk that I need water, I was a customer, within 24 48 hours the truck by your house. We don't have to wait 14 days for St. Joseph to send a truck for us. So we spent some time, Wendell, yesterday talking about how do we bridge the gap between now and when those 3 major projects come on stream. How do we put water in the tanks and barrels of our constituents? Because we have elderly folks, we have students. I mean, Wendell, I have had to beg for water for the dialysis center in Rio Claro. The dialysis center, which water is so critical, 50 people are dialyzing in Rio Claro, but yet you can't get water for the center. So I raised all these matters yesterday. I have gotten a commitment from the seniors at WASA that they will be engaging the regional corporation next week. They will be looking at the local water trucking companies here to have a quicker, faster recovery and response time to deal with water distribution with for all 28 of our communities in the Mara constituency, and as a stop-gap measure while the Maho River feed comes on stream for Guaya, while the desal project with the Canadian company comes on stream in Ottawa, and while the new 14-inch line is being built to Tablan. So I am keeping my fingers crossed that that bears some fruit. And as I tell you, Wendell, I am on top of that. I am like an anvil on the heads of those guys, because I told them it is not the duty of the MP to make excuse for WASA. I am pressing as well that they send weekly schedules to me, which I will share with all the councillors, that you can share with your burgesses as well. I want to know this week ahead which community is getting water and which day. So people will know that they're getting water on Wednesday or Thursday. They know to get your barrel and your tank and whatever. Get the hose on it in the night or whatever to get your water. Proper scheduling. And I've also asked for WASA, the seniors in WASA, to come to Mayaro and have a town hall meeting with the organizations, with people, explain to them why we are having these issues, what are the engineering requirements to fix it, and allow people to ask their questions. So in that way, we deal with the communication. So Wendell, as the ever optimist in me, I remain hopeful that WASA will engage the corporation next week, and we will be able to pick some low-hanging fruits and satisfy the immediate needs of our constituents, of your burgess, as we hope for the grass to grow and we can resolve this water problem within the shortest time frame. So that's the latest from WASA.
Yes, yes, great MP. But you and I are getting some licks right here from my callers and persons sending in information.
Yep.
I'm being reminded that host Mr. Perez, you and the MP indicated about this town hall meeting a couple of months now, and we are saying it again. Is it?
Yes.
Will it come through this time? That's one of the questions.
Well, all I could say, remember, I, neither you, Wendell, we don't have a belt that we could drop to strap on anybody in WASA. All we could do is use the tools which the Constitution has given both you as counselor and myself. The tools that we are given is the power of the pen, where we could write, we could come in on radio shows like yours and we could talk. I can go to Parliament and I could stand and I could talk everything under the planet. But neither you or me have what you call instructional or constitutional powers over any public office or public officer to instruct them to do anything. So we remain hopeful.
Right.
That is the best we can do. We don't have a magic wand that we can wave and have WASA turn up in Mayaro.
So listener there, you heard it. It always on the front page and always being sorted out. So as we're on the topic of those things really, really impacting us, and in particular, right here, not only across the constituency, but particularly on the Guayagari Road. So we recently saw some work being done at places that we indicated before. That's there where old Royal Bank and also...
Look how long.
Right, exactly.
Look how long I spoke about that.
Right.
I mean, probably a year.
Right here on this radio station also. Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And we finally got it. They finally got that. And still, and as we raise in the road, let's talk roads, right? Due to some of your efforts, which I give you commendations as well, you made certain requests at your level in terms of your political sphere, and together with whatever conversation I would have been having at the minister and the ministry level, we got the minister to come to Mayaro. And he made certain conversations about X amount of projects that are happening in terms of landslip and roads and bridges. We talk about, these 3 or 4 hot spots, what I call them as hot spots. I say if you can't fix the whole road for me, well, there are some hot spots that need attending. Well, I see these 3 hot spots are being attended to this week. As a matter of fact, in a little while, I'll be driving down and go and take a first and look at it myself. But Wendell, sadly, for fiscal 2023, there is no projects for any whole or partial resurfacing of any part of the roads from Rio Claro to Guayagari. What they have committed to us is what you call aggressive spot patching, right? We have asked for certain areas to have a full resurfacing. And let me tell you this, in September last year, I wrote the Ministry of Works, I wrote the Permanent Secretary, I wrote the Chief of Highway Division, and I made a case for the Ottawa Road, that Ottawa main road piece there, through the village of Ottawa.
Yes.
And I made a case, I said, look, the country sees Ottawa as a tourism site.
Yes.
Our fish vendors, our roast fish vendors have put Ottawa on the map in Trinidad and Tobago.
Correct.
What is the worst piece of road I have encountered in my life at a town center? Let's call Ottawa as a town center. When you thought Mayaro town center was bad, Ottawa is worse. And I told the minister, I said, Minister, help our commerce and our tourism by resurfacing. Let me take from by the bridge to the Savannah Road. Just a little piece. Give us a full resurfacing. So when these thousands of people have to traverse to Mayaro, stop off in Ottawa, at least they will see a decent piece of road. You will help our commerce. That's how much months now. and I can't even get a response. And I hinged it to economics, to tourism. You know, again, as I now mentioned in Wasa, neither me or you have a constitutional belt. You understand? What we could is write and we could ask, right? I have also asked for certain areas to get, preferential treatment because of the criticality of the roadway. But I do not like to go down the road of political victimization or even geographic discrimination. I don't like to use those terms loosely, right? But oh Christ, man, the money that is spending, that is putting 65% of the into the coffers of the treasury is coming from Mayaro. And whether you like Paris or you like the UNC or you like Paris and you like the UNC, it is citizens of the country. Because Paris don't ask for nobody to clean the drain, Paris don't ask nobody to put no street light in front of the house, right? Anything I ask for is on behalf of the people. So don't victimize the people because I'm Paris and he's UNC now. And I don't like to go down that road, Wendell. You know me and you have had a relationship for many, many years. And I am at my wit's end to find a rationale. When you see the Ministry of Works on Facebook paving road that don't need paving, Wendell. The paving road with 2 donkey cart does pass. We have 5,000 vehicles traversing our roads here daily, moving back and forward. On a holiday weekend, 10,000 vehicles coming in. We are the center of attraction for Trinidad on a holiday weekend. And you can't find $2 million to help nothing on this road. And let me push that even further. Yesterday in the parliament, I asked the Minister of Works concerning that bypass road in Manzanilla. I said, Minister, the question I had filed was, can you give us an update on the new piece of road that you had promised, that when you put this bypass in its donkey cart style, because it's like a donkey cart road, you gave a commitment that by September, October of this year, the new 10-kilometer piece of road will be completed. So we don't have to go back into another critical destruction of that roadway. He verified yesterday that the roadway will be completed. But in the same breath, he said they have to wait for what you call the consultancy design and the plan because of the nervous swamp. So I had to ask a supplemental question. I said, Minister, just for my own understanding, can you confirm that the roadway will be finished? So he got the gist of what I was asking him, because how could you give me a confirmation that a roadway will be completed by the end of the year, but it all depends on some survey plan? And we know the length of time, Wendell, that these things happen. So I told the minister, I said, Minister, if you know in your heart that this roadway will not be finished by the end of this year, out of courtesy to the motoring public in Mayaro, put some asphalt on the bypass road now, man. We can't be paying $14 million for a donkey cart tractor, right? So I await rainy season coming for the motoring public who driving across the road. When that rain come down from the end of May into June and start to wash away that donkey cart road, I want to see what the minister go do, because listen, we go take the jam because it's short term. You're promising a new road, we go take it. But let the rainy season start and the road start to collapse. You see just how the people of Union made a statement. But I hope the motoring public will be ready to make a statement, because this MP has been lobbying the minister, right, to put some asphalt on that road. Put a bit of asphalt. You had to put much, but give a better driveway for the motoring public, now, man. So that's the latest with that. And as we in Manzanilla one time, another question I had filed a couple months ago is concerning that solar lighting.
Yes.
That solar lighting in Manzanilla. I reached out to TNTech in February of this year, asking TNTech so what is the position with bringing those lights back on. We understand that the 2 men who was involved in the stealing of the batteries, they were apprehended, and both of them is serving time at the pleasure of the state somewhere, right? They're having a ball. So it's about time we bring the lights back on. TNTech at that time tell me, boy, that thing too expensive, boy, we have to put it in the budget and it will take some time and whatever. So I said, listen, you are telling me that the batteries, which is about 10% of the overall infrastructure cost of the solar facility, you are happy to put 90% of taxpayers' money to rotten in Manzanilla? That is what you're telling me? The batteries is 10% of the overall cost. The men who thief the batteries, they're in jail. Buy the damn batteries, put it back on. I say, so you don't care about the health and the safety of our nighttime motoring public. And who's using the road in the night? Our police officers, our nurses, our doctors, our emergency workers, right? To get to Sandy Grande in an emergency, you have to go through the coconut war. We have so many young women and men driving down here in the night. They're working Port of Spain and then they come back Mero. So you telling me for 10% of the infrastructure you went, so I went to tongue with them. I said, okay. I write a note to the Minister of Public Utilities and ask him if he agrees with TNTEC. I never get a response. So I put a question on the other paper. So yesterday it came up for answering. So when they listen, I write about 9 supplemental questions because I'm going to tongue the speaker going to put me out of the chamber. To my surprise, Minister Gonzalez get up and says that TNTEC has advised him that work on restoration has started today. Yeah, today. This is Friday, yesterday, right? That it has started today, Friday, and it will be completed by the end of June. So the good news is we should be getting our solar lighting back in order by the end of June. You know my great surprise when I come in from Parliament last night, I see 3 of the lights working. Now, if the MP didn't start to raise that hornet's nest months ago, and remember the questions that we filed to the minister, it takes 6 weeks to come up for answer. So 6 weeks, Marvin Gonzalez would have gotten that note that MP Parry is asking this question. He must have called TNTEC and said, hey, I had to answer this to the people of my area. How all of a sudden, bam, lights coming on. So you see, sometimes, and I want to give the people of Mara the assurance, the advantage that they have compared to other constituencies, that you have an MP who live in here. So I'm going through the same pothole. I just had to beg to buy water. You know, I had to buy water for my business place,
Right.
After I cost up Wasa, sometimes I had to beg the corporation too, just like you, help me with some water. I had to go and spend $5,000 just to fill 5 or 6 tanks in our commercial building. So I feel the same financial pain, the same strain, the same pressure on vehicles. I have a Prado, and I had to change a steering rack last week for $38,000. $38,000 we had to change the steering rack for, right? So I am aware of, if not all, 99% of the issues. I don't wait. Somebody sends me a little WhatsApp, MP, look, we have a problem with school bus in the school. I will reach out. I will go and I will do it. Now, I can't report everything to the public. I can't report where I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I brush my teeth at 4:35, and I change my clothes at 5 o'clock. I can't do that. But if people want to find out issues or find out, what is the status, the wonderful thing, they can call you on your radio station and say, look, the next time the MP coming on, I had this question for him. Right. So I could share it because you have a wide listening audience. I will be able to tell you what is the latest on these matters.
Well, some good news coming in there, MP2. Persons are sending another message saying that first time they're hearing these things, glad to be informed, and they are so happy that they tuned in this morning to get that update. So that is great.
What you should do, Wendell, most Saturday mornings I am available unless I have an event that ties me up on a Saturday. But you encourage your listeners to find out about constituency issues, even if it's a national issue as well. I will be happy. I'll be happy to come and spend a half an hour to discuss a bill that is before the parliament.
Great.
Discuss some issue that comes up, because unless we don't pass the information on, we won't manage the expectation of the constituents, right? And I will be happy to give an audience, to talk about matters. No, I always say, you don't have to agree with me. I have never asked anyone that they must agree with my position, but my position is a position I take. I am an elected member of parliament. They didn't elect me as a parrot to go and parrot everything that everybody say. When you voted for Wendell Perez or when you voted for Rushton Parry, you gave me the authority to speak on your behalf, right? And that you have given me the trust that the decision I make is in the best interest of everybody. That is what the electoral process is about. You can't satisfy everyone, but you go with the trust that, listen, when Parry is making a decision on behalf of the constituency in his mind, he's doing it in the best interest of the entire constituency and the country. And if at the end of the day, on election day, Wendell, for me and you, right, you are not satisfied, well, then you know what to do, right? But until that time, Wendell, I will continue to make the best decisions in my respectful view, what is best for the people of the constituency of Mayaro, who have elected me via a democratic process at the end of the day. You don't have to agree with me at times, but you must abide that I'm making the best decisions at the end of the day. And if you want to advise me differently, there's a way you could do it very respectfully and say, Parry, I don't agree with you. I would like you to do A, B, C, or D. I take it into consideration.
Right.
So that is the process when.
Great. So let me try you in with a hard one here now.
Sure.
Because the overall employment climate within our region goes up, down based on projects, and then we have the infight. And even the recent situation there with the information there at the Ministry of Works at Rio Claro and both Miaro and stuff. So could you give us a little statement on the general employment climate in the overall constituency and in particular our immediate area here in Miaro?
Wendell, I think it is worse here in our constituency versus the national average. And what makes it more complex, right? I mean, you sit at the regional corporation. You would have seen or you could have witnessed the increase in demand for employment outside of the corporation in terms of people looking for, I mean, a short term something to help out. Remember, historically, our energy sector has always been the main employer for the vast majority of people on the Mayaro end of the constituency. This is Mayaro community. On the Rio Claro side, the regional corporation has always, with that and URP, would have always been the mainstay for casual labor, low-skill labor at the end of the day. What we've had over the last 8 years, and I want to be a little political here, Wendell, as I say, you don't have to agree with me. The government, the state, they have failed at a policy level to generate new business, new interests in new types of business outside of the energy sector to compensate to the fallout in the energy sector. So what you find happening now is that the very same job market that would have clung to the energy sector worker, they are now focusing on the regional corporation, on URP, on CPEP, you know, especially for that middle to low end labor requirement. So there's heavy competition for those jobs now. So as the competition raises, the heat level raises as well. The higher skill level fellas and them, like, who have come out of the energy sector, many of them, they too at home. So you find there's a lot of heated arguments at the level of Touchstone, because Touchstone is the only energy company that is, you know, doing some work in that Rio Claro area. So there's heavy demands for that side. You know, Shell is coming on stream with this Manatee project. I think we're still probably a year and a half away from the labor intensive part of that project. That's a $5 billion US project. I'm looking forward for that project when we get a year down the road to see the ramping up in terms of employment facility for the people of Mayaro. But I've made it clear. I've made it clear to all of those energy companies. I have no problem as the member of parliament if you tell me, MP, there's a certain skill set that we cannot find in Mayaro and we have to take it from outside. I have no problem with that. But do not tell me for 1 minute you're hiring chef, cook, people to make up bread and clean office from San Fernando and from Takarigo and Tunapuna. I will not accept that. Every single position that can be sourced from Mayaro must be taken from Mayaro. But here was the problem sometimes with that. And it's a problem when I reach out to those guys. They say, Parry, you all fighting for work. But half of them boys and them, when they turn up, they can't pass a drug test. That's a real issue, right? That's a real issue. I'll give a little example. NDSC and Parenco had set up a training going on. I think it started. One of the requirements is to get an all-clear drug test. I understand the amount that people fail the damn drug test. Right? So you couldn't get the free training. So that's a problem we have to fix as a community. I will do my part to make sure that the most amount of labor, when these projects come on stream, Now, also remember as well, Wendell, I have no control and instructive powers over these private entities as well. I can make a case, I can make a statement to them, and obviously, out of the respect for my office, they will try their best to hold on to it. When they give you the excuses, like I now say, how you going to argue with that? The other thing too, Wendell, our biggest shift in Mayaro here, if we bring back the employment of Mayaro, has to be how do we capitalize on our local tourism? We don't have any infrastructure. Wendell, you know, at the level of the corporation, you get probably an allocation for the year $200,000 under the tourism head. What can you do with $200,000 to clean up our beaches, to fix toilet and all kind of thing on the beaches? Nothing. We are not serious. The Ministry of Tourism is a marketing company. They are not a development company. I've been talking with TTF, which is Trinidad Tourism Limited, and a bit of information here. I think your listeners would enjoy to hear what I'm saying. In speaking with the heads of the Tourism Limited, and I think they're arranging a meeting to meet with me probably over the next 2 or 3 weeks to come to Mayaro. They are looking through some of my conversations with them for investors to invest in tourism projects in Mayaro. You've noticed lately a lot of land has been clearing down. There's areas down by the new gas station, in Rest House. They are looking at owners of properties with beachfront land to see if they're interested in foreign investment to build hotel, golf course, you know, amusement parks, whatever. These are serious discussions through my push. I say, Mayaro, all you have to help us in Mayaro here. If you don't help us bring investors to Mayaro, we have the longest stretch of beach in the whole damn Caribbean. We can't capitalize on that. We have a Nerva swamp. We have one of the best ecotourism system on the island, and you can't help us with that. We have a history of oil and energy starting from Rossville. I have told the people in Nalis, I say, you see that public library in Mayaro here? It should be half a library and half of museum, showcasing the history of Trinidad, of Mayaro. You understand? So when visitors come, they can walk from Randolph, Rossville's drilling, to where we are now into our marine development, our oil and gas. We need a whole corner for Dr. Michael Anthony with all his books, his history. You understand? So the point I want to make, Wendell, is that we have the ability to create entrepreneurship in Mayaro here, to drive it. But unfortunately, as MP, again, we come back to the tools that we have been given. We have been given the tools of talk, Wendell. I don't have the tools of action because I don't sit at the executive arm of the government. Hopefully that could change one day. And the day that changes, my friend, the fortunes of Mayaro will change, right? But the capacity is there. There is hope. I will tell everybody when I don't talk. Anyway, I go to talk, I say, listen, as bad as we are, as bad as you think we are, Trinidad and Tobago, we are a resilient nation.
Yes.
We are resilient. We have bright, young, hardworking people. What you need is inspirational leadership and a little imagination. And if we can get those things in the right mix, Wendell, there is nothing stopping Trinidad and Tobago from jumping back up. You remember in 2003 or 2004, the LA Times had written an article, and they called Trinidad and Tobago. They say we were a tiger in a sea of pussycats. So we need to get back to that level. And Mayaro, I always believe that we have the capacity, with the assets we have, we can bring in what you call double-digit GDP to this country. And you know what is the beautiful part about Mayaro? We have two financial agencies which are capitalized heavily. We have MyPed, which has about $100 million. You have Waimea Credit Union, which is probably another $100 million. These are financial facilities which out of the traditional banking system to pressure young businessmen. We have finance here. Right. We have a lot of young men and with families who can do nice tourism projects, business. I spoke to Minister Kazim about a month ago. I said, Kazim, why are we having the Guayagüeyari fishing port rotting? We have Ottawa, the squatting getting so bad in the Ottawa facility. Some of the squatters want to build front porch and back porch in that facility now. We have these two facilities rotten away. These things can provide employment. We can do entrepreneurship. We could do cultural programs. We could do fishing tours. We can do nature tours of the river on boats. Put some of these young captains of these boats to work. Wendell, the potential and the capacity for mayor is here. I assure you that your MP, I have the ideas. I articulate these ideas to the relevant ministries, but I just don't know why none of them, the state, they are unwilling to even look at some of these things. We have the capacity and we could put our young people to work, Wendell.
Right.
We could put them to work. And that is what pains me the most, that, you're talking, and the people who are in charge, the executive, has no interest, and that is what is sad.
So-
and I know I went off on a tantrum.
No,
there
no,
all
no,
over the
no,
place,
no.
so sorry about
Again,
that.
I can tell you from the listeners and from the notes that keep coming in online here, positive, positive, positive. And all of them have concurred with the fact that they are hearing some information that they weren't aware of, and glad to know that the fight is on as it relates to our region.
It
But-
is.
yeah.
We all live here, Wendell.
Great. So also now at the national level,
Yeah.
while the numbers may not show specific to our region,
Yeah.
but there has been an increase in terms of, in particular, home invasions and of course that whole crime splurge and stuff. And of course we must compliment the same executive as it relates to the regional outlook with heads of government and that symposium earlier this week. But in terms from where you sit, make a comment in relation to that increase in home invasion and the crime splurge as it relates overall at the national level, and then bring it home within our region or our constituency.
Sure. All right. So the crime, there is this view that there is a fix for crime. I respectfully say there is no fix for crime in this country. In no country. You cannot eliminate criminal activity from any society. And unless you read it in a book for fairy tale or what you call a utopian society where all is perfect, well then they have no crime in those type of societies. What countries, some countries have been doing, some have been able to do it, some have not been doing it, and the Caribbean in particular, we've lost control on the issue of crime. And you can suppress crime, you can't stop it. You could suppress it, you can't stop it. You can't prevent it, but you can reduce the incident in the severity of the types of crime, right? So I want to put a pin there. My belief, this is my belief, right? That there is a correlation with the unemployment levels and the incidence increase of crime. Now, we in Trinidad and Tobago, the barometer that we use for crime is murders, right?
Yes.
We use murders as the barometers. If you look at sometimes the TTPS statistics, a lot of other serious crimes are in check. It is in control. Some of them you see it's on the downward trend. But the issue of murders is what makes the papers, and it sets the tone for how well the country is doing. Now, I will never attack the police commissioner. None of them. Because I'm of the view, which police commissioner has had the greatest impact on crime over the years?
Randall Burrows.
I mean, well, Randolph, how his style was. In the 1970s, you couldn't get away with things. Today, you can't get away with that, right? So you are constrained by the society as well in terms of what are the expectations and how you can act and so on. But the point I want to make, and this is where the state becomes part of the problem and part of the solution as well. How do we deal with young people? When you look at the men who are involved in criminal activities, so the police shoot a 24-year-old yesterday and kill him. He have a rap sheet. But he have a 20-year-old brother. In 6 months' time, he too gonna shoot by the police. And when he gets shoot, he have a 14-year-old brother. The problem is here, Wendell, we have a breakdown in family. Right? We have a breakdown in the family system. I do not believe that discipline must be handled in the charge room or in the principal's office. Discipline is something has to be cultured in the living room of the home. And if we as parents fail in our duty to instill discipline, we have a problem that we're seeing in the school setting now with all this that are fight in school and so on. But it is even more of that. There are too many families at a very low level that are being, how you put it, boy, there is a huge gap being developed in terms of the state, in terms of the church, in terms of the family unit. And we are making no effort as a state to look at this family closely because we're in a bad place. So I went to Beijing in 2017 in China. I went to the CCP University there for a 1-week program. And there was a project that they did in Shanghai to raise 1 million people out of poverty level. And when I saw what they did, they went home to home, Wendell. So they took every home and they did an assessment on the mother, the father, and the children. Could the mother read and write, yes or no? Does she have a skill, yes or no? Is the father working, yes or no? Can we assist him? What is his educational level? And whatever were the gaps for that family, that gaps were filled. They send the mother to learn to sew, to bake, to whatever. They put the father on one of the farms to make sure he had the basic income. Children make sure that their nutritional needs are being taken care of. And I want to tie in nutrition to the crime level.
Right.
When you look at the fact that you have a generation of young people in certain communities that are challenged nutritionally, it has a direct link to the fellows who are involved in the criminal activity. So nutrition is an important thing. So in China, they dealt with this and they monitored those families until the statistics brought them out of what you call the poverty level, right? Now, I am saying, in China have a different rule of how they operate.
Right.
It's either that or they send you to the gulag for jail. Here, every man just want to thief money, right? So it's a different type of system. But unless we don't deal with the family, things like decentralization, Wendell, why it is, I know you're not a married man, so what I'm going to say you might not understand, right? But when you have a young couple, have to leave Mayaro, Rio Claro to go to work in Port of Spain, they have to leave home 4:30 in the morning, but they have to leave the baby home with a caretaker, probably a young girl who never make a child herself. And by the time you reach home in the night, 6, 7 o'clock, you don't have time to see about homework, to see about meals. You just want to sleep. I'm saying we have to have policies of decentralization, bring people closer to home, get couples back to make sure they can make breakfast for the kids, drop them to school, come home early enough, do their homework, create our green spaces. As a local government, we need to get your developmental budget to put more green spaces with parks and benches and lights. So when I come home 5:30 in the evening, I could take my 3 children, go to the park, run a little ball with them safely. So we're strengthening the family relationships, right? So we're dealing with the crime level at a family level. Get time for it to do family stuff, So it has to be holistic. So to deal with crime, we must have what you call the suppression, which is what we need to bring down the activities you're seeing now. So we have crime suppression. The crime prevention initiative is the outreach to families. So one of the projects that I'm doing over the next couple of weeks, I'm bringing Crime Stoppers to Mayaro. So we're going to do 2 or 3 programs within the 3 administrative districts where I'm going to invite constituents to come out. Let's form these, what you call these community WhatsApp groups with Crime Stoppers, where you too could help police your area, show, innovative methods of what you can do at your homes to make sure that you are safe, and outreach to our citizens. And look, we're in a bad place. We need to protect ourselves as well, so the police can do their work as well. So I'm bringing that over the next couple of weeks. You'll see a lot of advertisements with those Crime Stoppers meeting very, very soon. So you have crime suppression, you have crime prevention, and then you have the issue, the long-term policy issues. How do we bring people closer to home? How do we get our young entrepreneurs, to get work, create new business, So the more people earn money and earn a living, and don't get me wrong, and I hope your listeners don't misjudge me by saying Paris saying because you're poor, you're going to crime. That is not the case. But I made a statement at a conference the other day. I say it is sad that sometimes a man jump your fence to go on your zabuka or your mango tree, and as a homeowner you come out with your cutlass or your gun and you shoot and you kill a man. while there are evil men outside there, you know, what my grandfather, he say, Satan make them. A lot of people get into crime because of necessity. They want to put food on the table for their family. When they'll, I have men come in my office as MP and cry. I should have just come by you and all. They have no food to help the family, help me parry. And I am saying there's a certain amount of that type of petty crimes that if we get the entrepreneurship going, get people, put them back out to work, get men will not want to jump a fence to thief your lemon and thief your lime and get yourself in trouble. So there is no easy fix, Wendell. You see the home invasion? I was chatting with a guy this morning. He is from North Trinidad. He said, Russian, you feel there's one or two home invasions happening? He said, home invasions are happening by the group, but a lot of people not reporting it. They're not reporting it, right? Because they're embarrassed. He said he know one family. People jump the fence. They made off with thing in the house, but they raped the mother. And because of the embarrassment of the rape, the family has not reported it. Understand what's happening, eh?
Yeah.
Because of the embarrassment of the rape, the family refused to report it to the police. Those are the kind of things that are happening, Wendell. And, you know, there must be an outcry. And I mean, we could cost the Minister of National Security how much we want to, the Commissioner of Police, we could cost the boys in Mayaro here. If the people don't take a stand, and listen, one of the biggest challenges the police tell you is that nobody, look in Guaya here, I'm not sure if you are aware of that. They break up my whole auto room about a month ago.
Okay.
Break it open 4:30 in the morning, right? They got about $1,000 in change or whatever, right? But you know what the detective say? He say he has been in Mayaro here for 3 years. He say in Newlands, they have not solved a single crime in Newlands in the 3 years because nobody don't see nothing. Now, it's not that the people don't want to talk to the police, but they are fearful that if they speak to the police, the people will come back and retaliate against them. So that is the type of fear that people have in reaching out to the police as well. So it's a Pandora's box of issues. But according to my father's always say, Rushton, you could have 99 problems. And if you don't start to solve one by one, you will get nowhere. He say, pick the low-hanging fruits and tap them off early and move on. But the more we lament and cry and say we can't do this and this and that, we will keep digging a hole, and we keep going deeper and deeper. It will be very difficult to come out with it. I can tell you, Eastern Division, where Mayaro falls into, we're still better than a lot of divisions. I think the fact that a lot of our police officers live in the constituency, a lot of boys live in the villages, I think that gives them an interest in the community, and I think that's why our detection rate, from when I look at the statistics for Eastern Division, the detection rate is high, the conviction rate is high. You notice just this week, I think 2 officers from Eastern Division was charged on issues of corruption and so on.
Yeah,
so the police is doing a fair amount of work in cleaning up their own shop as well. And I think the advent of social media is creating an environment that we can clean up everybody. You understand? You can't run, you can't hide, we got a camera all over the place. So it's going to make public officers more responsible in their work, even politicians. Things that politicians could have get away with 20 years ago, you can't do that because eyes are on you, Wendell.
Right.
You know? So, but as I keep saying, all is not lost. I think if the right conversations are happening, the right policy decisions are being made, and you have the right attitude of the people, I think we could overcome this problem as well. But in terms of Mayaro, I think we're still in a good place in terms of the crimes and the crime level. And I think Eastern Division is still doing a fairly good job so far. But as MP, I have regular meetings with the seniors. I ask for data, I ask for statistics, and, you know, they give it to me, you know, just as it comes out from their crime department unit. And I make engagement with them, you know, holiday, weekend, and so on. Always talk to them, what are you doing, what's in place? And if there's anything that is a red flag, I call them and I say, look, I'm not too happy with this, see what I could do. So that's the latest from the crime part.
Yes, MPL. So many questions are coming in, and we really thank you for taking the time out to share with us and be with us here this morning. And that commitment that you gave to come on regularly, because there are a number of questions, and some of them would require a long conversation also. So what we're going to do, I'm going to table those for another time. Good. But we want to thank you so much for coming on this morning. and give you an opportunity to close off with any comments that you would like to make or share with us and our listening audience at this time.
So, well, in closing, Wendell, thank you for having me. As I said, I will make myself available as much and as often as I can in terms of providing some information. It's important people ask questions because only if they ask, then they would know what's happening and they can make an informed decision. As you know, I continue to be available to answer any questions. I mean, on my Facebook page, you have access to my phone number. The constituency have a WhatsApp hotline at 308-2688 that people can WhatsApp queries and concerns. I have staff that monitors that 24 hours a
Yes,
day.
MP, just repeat that number again for our listening audience.
308-2688.
Right.
That's WhatsApp. It's a WhatsApp only. Nobody answers it. It's an automated system.
Right.
Any query, any question, people just WhatsApp that number, and within 24 hours you get a response, if not sooner, because that is monitored by my staff 24 hours. I try to respond to all of my personal messages on Facebook. Right, you can reach out to me through Messenger on Facebook, my MP page, my personal page. I start at 4:30 every morning to respond to anybody. I mean, if I do miss somebody, it's because of the overload, and I am extremely apologetic when I miss your message. But I try my best. So people, even you Wendell, you can attest that that messages from me start at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. But that's the hour that I start to work every single day. And I respond to everybody. Our offices remain open Monday to Friday, 8 to 4. My office day is on Tuesday. I'm there from 11 to 4. If anybody wishes to see me in person. Outside of that, I am in my arrow at my business place. You know, I have the pharmacy, the 2 stores. I am in my arrow every Monday. I mean, I do ask people to make an appointment. If you see me on the side of the road, stop me. Right? Don't be afraid to say, well, Parry, I have a street light getting some problems. So I say, I will take the information and we'll put it through the process. So I remain accessible and available to the constituents of my arrow, and I will always continue to do my best to bring relief as best as I can. So thank you again, Wendell, for having me. It was a pleasure having this conversation.
Great. And there you have it, listeners, the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Miaro. And as they say, Awi boy from right here, thank you so much, MP, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
My pleasure, Wendell. Take care.
Great.
Bye.
So there we have it, listeners. Yes, the MP sharing with us great things, has what's happening and giving us an update on all these different situations and the fact that they will be opened up for more. So here's what. In 1970, going back to March and that incident, we just wanted to share with you from Brother Valentino a very, 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 very important and something that we must take cognizance of. And based on all the conversations that we just had, something for us to truly tune into and listen to the short little interviews within the song. Very deep, very pertinent, and very important for us as a people. 1970, the roaring 70s.
Remember Basil Davison, Guy Haywood, Brother Valentine, Beverly Jones, Brian Jefferson, the others whose lives went down on the line. I wonder if these people gave their lives for a hopeless cause. Before their deaths, all those responsible people, the verdict is yours. But Trini have a funny way of forgetting their history to them like don't mean nothing. The history that went down here in the 1970s, as though it never was today in this century. But don't care how they try to tarnish these historic memories, I will always remember the roaring 70s. Tell them to write down this one here in the pages of history. 21st of April, the year of our Lord, 1970.
every time I go to a bank, that's the first thing that strikes me. I wonder if these beautiful little black girls, Indian and African, recognize how they get this job. Plenty fellas lose their blood and plenty people sacrifice so that we could change that status quo.
Remember when black people was denied the privilege to work in them banks? You forgot who gave you this advantage, but to end your king should say thanks. Remember when white faces used to hold the top position? So let us all give thanks and praises to the 7th revolution. But you know this funny way of forgetting. Hey, their history to them like it don't mean nothing. The history that went down here in the 1970s, as though it never was today in this century. I don't care how they try to tarnish these historic memories. I will always remember the roaring 70s. Tell them to write down this one here in the pages of history. 21st of April in the year of our Lord, 1970.
Many people were killed, including my sister, as I said before, my 17-year-old sister. She was murdered in Quora on the 13th of September 1973. And then Guy Harewood and Brian and John Beddoe and, over 13 members of the organization, young people, young, brilliant.
A lot of men lived fast and died very young in this most historic decade. When Randy B used to come to town with his flying squad and parade, the emphasis was on education. And when the young folks got too bright, the same institution turned around and out their light. But Trinidad, a very funny way of forgetting. Their history to them like it don't mean nothing. The history that went down here in the 1970s, as though it never was today in this century. But don't care how they try to tarnish these historic memories. I will always remember the roaring 70s. Tell them to write down this one here in the pages of history. 21st of April, the year of our Lord, 1970.
There was also a rumor that Robinson, A&R Robinson, because he had decided to break with the PNM at that point, that he was involved in some devious plot that involved the soldiers and the Black Power people. I don't know if he had any discussion with the Black Power boys. He has denied it, but I can tell you for a fact he had nothing to do with what we did at Tetron.
Looking back on that era, I see changes that took place politically. Who left this party to form that party, and who embezzled the oil money? Some conscious black men and women, the system make them crumble and bend. And now the nation gone right back to Europe on a western trend. Trinidad, a very funny way of forgetting. Their history to them like it don't mean nothing. The history that went down here in the 1970s, as though it never was today in this century. But don't care how they try to tarnish these historic memories. I will always remember the roaring 70s. Tell them to write down this one here in the pages of history. 21st of April, the year of our Lord, 1970.
I don't feel that what I was hoping to achieve has been achieved. Trinidad and Tobago is not the Trinidad and Tobago that it ought to be.
Mayaro Radio.
Yes, very important, very important. And of course, we would be actually doing a show as it relates to examining that whole Black Power movement and that whole roaring 70s and the contributions. And let me leave you with one of the points that we'll be sharing on that specific program to deal with that whole 1970, because we know that May 1st, International Labor Day, is coming up shortly. And just for something for you to digest as it relates to same, is that in that 70s, as you know, the leaders and the gist of the argument before they went to Woodford Square and debate and talk were mainly our top performing students at UWI with a level of consciousness that was unbelievable. And let me share with you what I mean. Do you know that in that timing there, in that 70s, that the engineering students, I mean that when you look at today and you compare today, you see that vast empty space between that connect of students and people. And let me tell you what I mean. In the early 70s, the engineering students under the guidance of Geddes Granger, of course, and all, Cambon, well, their names at the time weren't those, but those were the leaders of that movement at that time. And the engineering students at UWI, University of the West Indies, went to the communities along the east-west corridor there, Laventil in particular, and assisted the people free of charge in different spheres in terms of teaching classes for those who wanted to get their GCE passes, their GCE subjects, and they taught persons in those communities for free. They assisted persons in construction of drains and the engineering aspect of it to make sure that it is well done, free of charge, taking time out from your studies at the university and going into these communities and adding value. So there was a deep connection between the community and the students at UWI, and that whole level of consciousness, of black consciousness, in terms of what was happening at the university in Canada and what was happening in terms of the Black Power struggle in the United States. So we would explore those, but I just wanted to put out that point that today, 2023, would you hear a couple of engineering students at UE come back to a community and assist in terms of the studies that they are doing to impact their community directly in terms of drains and other engineering aspect, free of charge? Just think about it, of that connection. So that roaring 70s had some aspects and some positiveness in it that we may need to revisit and rekindle and get back. So let's go now to our dailies. Our three main dailies here in our Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, on the front page of today's Express, Eid Mubarak to all our readers. A time for family. Togetherness. Members of the Caribbean Dawa Association shared an intimate family moment during a visit on Tuesday to a Quran exhibition in the atrium of Gulf City Mall, La Romaine, San Fernando. All right. Also on the front page of today's Express, Rudder's final high mass. No, listeners, that icon, King David Rudder, did not pass away. However, the Calypso icon says 70th birthday concert will be his last major show after Parkinson's diagnosis. David Rudder tells reporters about his Parkinson's diagnosis and subsequent battle with the disease at the Cafe Blue Rising Road, Port of Spain yesterday. All right, that's the front page of today's Express. On the front page of today's Newsday, Reverend Abdur Rahim Juman does the Zaru prayer at the St. Joseph TML Masjid, St. Joseph, on Friday. All right. THA remove Trinidad license officers from Tobago. Okay. Is it that the THA is against law enforcement? Anyhow, that is on page 5. Also on the front page of today's Newsday. This one is for you, TNT, David Rudder. All right. Rudder announces Parkinson's diagnosis, last major concert. And on the front page of today's Guardian, young Muslim worshippers pray at the Masjid Ul Had in Marbella during the final night of Ramadan last evening. Muslims in Trinidad and Tobago will celebrate Eid al-Fitr today. All right, so that's on the front page of today's Guardian. Keep out. Valsain residents gets green light for barricades, determined to stop spate of home invasions. Also on the front page of today's Guardian, brother diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. That's on page 7. And, of course, the NLCB Lotto jackpot stands today at $2.1 million. And this is the time that we dread and don't like here on Miaro Radio, and that is the murder count in Trinidad and Tobago currently stands at 178. Yes, on this day, the 22nd of April 2023, on the 22nd of April 2023, the murder count currently stands at 178. And the quote of the day is, in this life, we cannot do great things. We can only do small things with great love. I love that. Let me repeat. In this life, we cannot do great things. We can only do small things with great love. All right? So, wonderful, wonderful. And of course, our hearts goes out to King Dave, his brother, and of course his last major show. That's a 4-hour performance. Going forward, it does not mean that the icon will not be performing again. However, he will not be doing those marathon shows going forward. So this is his last major event where he will be performing for a 4-hour period. So, in respect of our brother, and based on the awareness as we're talking about April 21st, 1970, and we're going to play 1990 from King David Ruther, a big, big one.
Mayaro Radio.
Nuclear warhead, do I see it torn down? And there's an army in retreat. I see the old colonials of Europe become united, and perestroika fills the streets. I see the eagle on the shoulder of the bear, or maybe it's the other way around. Is this the calm before the hellfire, or is our tomorrow really heaven bound? But 1990, the blood flows in Bogota, and from Beirut to Johannesburg, the rivers don't stop. 1990, third world children still wander in their boats, their jungles, their deserts, until they drown. It is strange, more we change, rearrange, everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, please make a liar of me. Oh, 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 and what did we do, Monday? Oh, 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 and there is a black man on the run through a lonely Beijing street. There he goes, my God, he's running again, this time through Brooklyn Orleans, Howard Beach, and there he goes again through the streets of Soweto. I'm saying, so this story goes, and a man they call Alabama shrugs and says, deja vu, I suppose. 1990, will our children stand firm, or will they keep running and running and running till the end of time? 1990, will hands of love ever reach out, or will they be there just to strengthen the crime? It is strange, more we change, rearrange, ooh, everything just seems the same as we move into the next century. 1990, please make a liar of me. Oh, 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 Eastern Europe seems like Harlem and once, just different color, different place, different name, but people still shouting power, power to the people, and solidarity, the game. Even Tiananmen Square seemed like Woodstock until the tanks began to play, and their song was then written in blood, and the unsound system blew the children away. 1990, will we see a tomorrow where our children will truly be free? 1990, is it joy, is it sorrow, as we move into the 21st century?
From Mafeking to Rio Claro to Guayaguayare, through the coconuts of Manzanilla to the fine sands of Queens Beach, this is your station on the Eastern Peninsula, Mayaro Radio, taking Mayaro to the world.
Yes, rather, the Triple Crown winner, Young Kings, Road March, Calypso Monarch, all in 1 year. All the best, my brother. And of course, together, we know of that party in the original Mayaro government school, you know, when we go down by the road and sit down by the school and love up, right? That was Thomas, Guy, and Harry. That was a THG Promotions at the Mayaro government school. And right, we know when we get that whole Calabash Ali coming there. So, what is happening in the town and the results of cricket last evening in the All Mayaro Sports Foundation BPTT sponsored Mayaro Night Cricket and Night Windball Cricket, and game in Group D, the first game of the night, saw Youngbloods coming up against Limers United, and Youngbloods came out victorious, scoring 112 and Limers 87. So congratulations go out to Youngblood. Also in ladies Group E, Champions versus Untouchables. Champions came out with 85 runs and Untouchables 62. And of course in Group C, SCCL Hard Drive versus Power Hitters, and Hard Drive 59, Power Hitters 58. So that was the scores coming out of last night's games there at the Mayaro Government Primary School ground as the BPTT sponsored All Mayaro Sports Foundation Night Windball Competition 2023. All right, so we look forward to the games later and come out and show some support to the youngsters and the cricket there at the Miaro Government Primary School ground that kicks off at 5:30 on afternoons. Well done. So, again, we want to make sure that we extend sincere thanks to the MP for taking time out to share with us here this morning on Seine Talk, bringing us up to date with what's happening and taking some questions and committing to making himself available to take some more questions and, of course, to explore and talk about bills before the Parliament and we could get a greater appreciation of what is going on and what is happening at the level of the Parliament, and of course doing our own checks and balances that our representative is really keeping the constituency front and center in all his undertakings. So that is great, looking forward. And of course, again, that greeting goes out to the Muslim community on the celebration of Eid al-Fitr. So Eid Mubarak again to the Muslim community. And of course, as I stated earlier, the word Islam translates to love. So we must continue to show love. And in all the aspects, that is paramount and that is front and center. Love. So, Tobago. No, we're not talking about the fracas with the licensing officers and the fact that someone did not want to identify themselves, did not have their driver's permit on them. And then, you know, we too in small villages, we like to say that that is okay to not have your license on you because you have a time to produce it and stuff. That is at the discretion of the police officer at the time. You are required, when in control of a vehicle, to have those documents on your person as it relates to that. So, in terms, it's really, really unfortunate, and as indicated by the minister in relation to that, that's a really unfortunate statement as to saying that the licensing officers are terrorizing citizens. So it is really, really, really a disappointing statement. And even to be stating that you normally have time to produce and giving incorrect information, right? And the person that you send from your own personal security detail to go and deal with the situation, when asked by officers for them to produce identification, they declined. So in other words, a situation that was already not going in the way that they would like it, you're just adding to it. And that was really, really unfortunate. I'm glad that it didn't go any further, and the fact that it's currently still under investigation by the licensing office. But our discussion on Tobago is not about that. The laws of Trinidad and Tobago are for each and every citizen. And law enforcement in Trinidad and Tobago operates when you become a police officer, right? Or even when you become precepted, even as a member of the security services private company, your precepted officer under the Supplemental Police Act is all police, meaning your jurisdiction lies across Trinidad and Tobago. So, in that, law enforcement in terms of our licensing officers operate in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and for that is really, I hope that good sense prevails, and of course after the celebration of the Sabbath today, that our brother would then see the light and understand and retract those statements as it relates to hindering the work and the efforts of law enforcement, because you cannot speak about crime on one and then come back now and try to be in a position where you can hinder that or be part of the problem instead of part of the solution. Of course, compliments goes out to, in particular, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and all the heads of government who was recently at the Port of Spain symposium on crime and violence and treating crime as a public health issue in terms of that symposium here Monday and Tuesday. Excellent, excellent initiative. Well done. And of course, those commitments given, we know that they ruffled a number of feathers in terms of some of the statements made as it relates to the judiciary, and also the fact of some nations, including our nation, failure to convert in terms of making the Caribbean Court of Justice as the final court of appeal. And you know, it's situated right here in Port of Spain. We know those unpatriotics would have made statements in terms of the makeup of the court. We hope that we do get over that hurdle in terms of making the CCJ our final court of appeal. Of course, in terms, as I always stated, as speaking with persons who may not have been graduates of various universities, but also had a great understanding of what independence means and what independence is. So you cannot be boasting of an independent republic and then your final court of appeal is with these guys who wear these wigs on their heads, quite up in another country, and look at us as a former colony, and they are our final court of appeal. All right? Hats off to Prime Minister Gonzalez. I know you stepped on some toes when you spoke of, you know, allowing bail for persons who committed murder, and persons are out left, right, and center defending. So in one words, in that the importance and the role of the judiciary as it relates to this whole crime situation across the nation. So, our touch on Tobago is the current jazz festival there in Tobago this weekend, off and running, tip-top. The gospel aspect of it was wonderful, well attended. But organizers of the Tobago Jazz Festival, we need a Tobago night. And this is what I mean by a Tobago night. You have Nelson, Tobago Crusoe. We have the music of Shadow. We have all these other known significant performers coming out of Tobago. We need to have a Tobago night. And a Tobago night don't have to be on the prime nights. Don't have to be in relation to same. And we need to move the event across Tobago. So we're looking for a Tobago night. And the Tobago night must be nice. And we're looking for that in relation to that. So we're giving out, and we're going to have our own Tobago moment in the Tobago Jazz Festival weekend. We're going to do our Tobago moment now. Here we go with the Tobago Crusoe.
Down in Chagaramas, big convention. They wanted to find suggestions to improve our production. Thousands of people were down there that time, but I just believe they went down there for old talk and line. If you don't believe the Crusoe, please don't doubt him at all. Trinidad and Tobago is the most productive country in the whole world. You may think I lie, but listen to me, and you'll get some famous products we're producing recently. We produce over $50 billion in this country in 7 years. Then produce a one-track economy that collapsed and never seen tears. Then produce a corrupting crooks and scams that take all the money and gone. Well, tell me who in the world will beat us in this kind of production? In this whole world could produce like Trinidadians. Yes, we were the first to produce calypso, limbo and band. First to produce a pillow, first to produce roti. So you see they can't stop us with originality. It's we who gave the world the kind of carnival it knows today.
about what we're producing in this place recently. It's rather amusing, but it's still productivity. We produce a man who get one cent of money and hide it in Panama. Then produce a man who produce a law saying we can't bring the man back here. So he all over the world having fun cause he knows he cannot be caught. Cause before he leave, we produce the man with a diplomatic passport. This country producing famous people as well. You could remember Hazel, Crawford, Penny or Claude Noel. But now we're producing destitutes everywhere. You can see them in San Fernando, Arima or Woodford. The youths we're producing in our country, they just don't know what to do. There are menace now to society, man, they're robbing and raping too. This one make me happy. Friends, you must remember, we're producing more Rastafarians now than Jamaica. We produce a steel mill and all they're doing is stealing taxpayers' money. We produce a complex, it's so complex it might finish in the next century. We produce a highway that costs us $21 million per mile. Well, that, my friends, is productivity for you, Trinidadian style. This country producing millionaires overnight. It will continue doing so anytime the money read right. We produce a set of foreigners, produce them the top jobs too. Now it's only unemployment we have here for us to do. For people welcome produce some shacks cause no houses around. We produce the men from the regiment to move in and break them down. This productivity is the best that I've ever heard. Right now we are headed for the Guinness Book of Records. We're not producing much oil these days, we're not producing much sugar. So the pushers that they're making a race by producing more marijuana. If that is what we're producing now, my friends, I'm telling you flat. Next time the election comes around, I'll be voting for Dr. Ryan.
Music sweet, music sweet. The one who invented music has got to be terrific, got to be the one who created the sun and the trees, rivers and seas. Music fills the world with happiness, plenty, sweetness and togetherness. Music have no friends or enemies. Everybody good dingole, 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 dingole. If you close your eyes or you shoot